I'm so tired of hearing people say, well, you've got to be authentic and show behind the scenes. And you're like, how? Like, what exactly do you mean by that? Can you give me a formula? What is it? And I just tell people straight out, listen, you're not going to get comfortable on camera until you do it every day for a really, really, really long time. Yeah. I did it every single day for a really long time, and I hated a lot of it.
Okay, so we are live. I appreciate you making the time out of your schedule, Chelsea. We were just talking about how, we're happen to be hosting this in that live Facebook group that I created, and it's filled with people like you and I. And I guess let's start off the conversation with who you are and kind of how we ended up here. I'll give you a little bit of a preamble so you don't have to kind of do everything yourself. But, as far as I know, you're somebody who's always been somebody that's been very kind of consumer-centric focused. You have a ton of experience in the real estate field. From what I was reading, is about 25 years of it. I know you speak on a national level. I know you're now an author. I've actually got your book right here, so everybody should probably go on Amazon and look up What to Post by Chelsea Peitz and order a copy. And this is probably a product of years of development and really kind of honing your skills and then laying it out for other people to utilize in their own business. Maybe give me your origin story. Like, you're Spider-Man, you got bit by a spider. How did you get your superpowers and what are they?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I've been in the industry, 20 plus years, and I got my real estate license, 2001 BF before Facebook. So I did it the old fashioned way. I had triplicate forms. We had pink and yellow and white, and you had to figure out where they all went. And we didn't have social media. So I did that for a number of years. I worked for builders. I was in residential. I was in the good times. I was in the really, really, really bad times. And that really, really bad time part just kind of put me over the edge. And it was really tough sitting across families in the kitchen and saying, what are we going to do? We're losing our house. We don't know what to do with our family. And so that for me was really, really kind of like, I just had to move on, but I didn't want to leave the real estate industry. So I ended up going into sort of the title sales marketing side. So I still got to work with realtors every single day. And I kept my license, even though I was not active, but I kept my license for 18 years. I was 10 years as an active agent, selling properties and helping people buy and sell homes. Really kind of before technology was even a thing. Yeah. And so I didn't learn it. I didn't grow up with it. I remember going to the library in college. I didn't even have a computer. We shared a computer. So I only say that because a lot of people, assume that you somehow went to a class, somehow got a degree, somehow grew up with it. And I'm like, nope, not at all. It's not too late. You're not too old. You can learn it. You can learn how to do it. You can, take the old school meets new school and put it into technology. And when you do that, it's quite brilliant. So yeah, I am a national speaker. My official title is I'm the National Director of Social Sales for the Fidelity National Financial brand of companies. We own 30 title companies across the world. We own quite a few other really amazing real estate tech companies. So we're a Fortune 300 company. And I have the honor of being able to coach all of their sales and marketing staff on how to use social media to build a brand and generate more business. And as a result of that, I get a lot of time to be in front of mortgage and title and escrow and realtors and share that knowledge as well.
That's exciting. And I mean, it's communication at the end of the day. Like something I try and hammer home to people is no different than picking up the phone and cold calling 250 people a day or sending out mailers or prints. You get some of the old heads that will literally say, well, it's open houses that sell houses. Well, yes and no. It definitely is something that, you're planting seeds with people, you're meeting them one-on-one, you're developing relationships and friendships with them. But from a communication standpoint and a deal flow standpoint, I think you and I are on the same page that we saw 5 or 10 years ago, these trends happening that we kind of saw where it was going. And now tangibly, I gave a stat to my team the other day. I did 16 deals last year, strictly off like Instagram, DMs, Snapchat, like literally just social media, had nothing to do with anything else. And it wasn't because I was putting out ads. It's relationships like this that I've built over 5 or 6 years. And like, I feel like I know you better than I know some people that I've been friends with locally for 15 years because we've always maintained communication, right? So like we've never actually met in person, but maybe give people the origin story of how we met each other and what that looked like.
We met back in the Snapchat days, when we were on Snapchat, and we kind of, found a network of real estate folks that were using it and using it well and using it for business, using it for something that everybody told us we were never going to get business from it. We were never going to build a brand. It's a closed system. Nobody will find you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've kind of met through that whole group there, and many of us still remain very close friends today. And so
Like,
that was
on a national level, like I look at a bunch of people and they went down that path and they found kind of their passion. And like literally a lot of people watching this, they're big fans of Gary Vee and everything else. And like you've spoken on those stages and you've been kind of rubbed shoulders. I've come into contact with Jay Ciano and Blake because of your connection with them. I'm like, well, if Chelsea thinks they're cool, I guess I think they're cool too. And now like I've got something lined up with Blake in a couple of weeks because he works in the commercial real estate world. He's a killer. So is Jay. Well, Jamie God's my commercial real estate rep, would learn so much, from guys like that to bring back to our market. So it really was like this organic community that grew out, and everybody's different. Everybody has their own quirks and personality traits. And, like I look at how much of yourself you put out on social, right? Like there's no filter sometimes, and you really kind of let people into that world. So like, what was that process like for you going from, files, folders, sticky notes to walking, like dipping a toe into social to really being comfortable being yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I've, taught, I don't even know how many thousands of people now, probably tens of thousands with everything online. But, I'm so tired of hearing people say, well, you've got to be authentic and show behind the scenes. And you're like, how? Like, what exactly do you mean by that? Can you give me a formula? What is it? And I just tell people straight out, listen, you're not going to get comfortable on camera until you do it every day for a really, really, really long time. Yeah. I did it every single day for a really long time, and I hated a lot of it. I hated it. I hated how my voice sounded. I hated how I looked. Like it just was awful for me. That's why I like stories over even some live video or recorded video, because I feel like it gives you a little bit of a permission to have a shorter experience with the video. You can edit it, you can delete it if you don't like it. So it's a little bit easier for people to get comfortable with themselves on camera. But, also too, I tested out, and I didn't start to test out like this, but I just thought I'm going to have a niche. I'm going to just do marketing. I'm going to be business all the time. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, I don't know, people kind of really like my marketing stuff. So I'm afraid if they don't get all of that and they see more of the personal side, but I just decided I was going to just dip my toe in there, like you said. And at the time it was very Snapchat versus Instagram, if you remember that. And the people who were into Snapchat were like, how dare you, Instagram, for stealing Snapchat. And so what I put on Snapchat started to be different than what I put on Instagram. And eventually what I found was that the really personal, relatable stuff, I'm not talking about private, big difference between personal and private. You can be a very private person and still be very personable on your social media. That was what really connected people. And when people finally connect with you, they'll listen to the sales pitch when you have it. Sure. You can't have it all the time, but when you do have it, they're interested. They will listen to it. They will watch that content that maybe they would have scrolled past because maybe I'm not really that interested in, information about loans or houses, but I like you and I like hearing what you have to say generally. So I'll probably start watching some of it. So it's the likability, relatability, human factor that really connects people first to you. And I find that there is a massive content shift happening right now. I think in the next 2 years, we're going to see a really, really big shift in how we're teaching people to make content, because what I used to teach 3 years ago, I'm really not teaching anymore because it's really evolving thanks to like apps like TikTok and things like that. People again laugh at TikTok, but don't count it out.
The ring light, like coming up and doing that thing, like I laugh. I know he's seen it. I know she's seen it and everything else, but like you hit the nail on the head, right? I think, and I'd like to dig into what you just said, right? Like, what do you see? Like, what did you used to teach and where do you see it going? I guess would be my primary question.
Yeah. And the principles still apply. So I talk about the 5 E's of marketing, and those are the different categories that, you should try to have these kind of columns of different content, because I'm very formulaic. I need somebody to tell me exactly how to do something. I need a recipe. I need a template. I need an example. That's just how my brain works. So when I hear people talk about authenticity, my brain is like, I don't know what you're talking about. So until you give me an example,
like it's become this own thing, right?
Right, exactly. So, we've all heard it a million times, the educational content. I built my brand on educational content. I love educational content. However, educational content is starting to shift a little bit on where I'm seeing it play better in certain areas. So, for example, like YouTube, IGTV, amazing because people are going with intentionality to search for, and I'm just, I'd say this with love because I'm even my own content. I'm going to apply boring label to that. Here's a perfect example. I had to paint these walls and I just moved into this house a few months ago. My painter called and said, I need to know what white color you want. I'm like, well, isn't there just one white? And he laughed and was like, yeah, no, there's like 5,000. I went to YouTube, typed in top 5 white paint colors of 2019, found a guy who actually had made a 20-minute video about these 5 white colors, showed them in different lights, all this different stuff. I mean, the most boring content you could ever imagine making. I loved it. I needed it, solved my problem. I was ready to go, made my paint choice, never even saw it. And so that plays really well on those search-based types of systems. Now, it's not to say that you cannot build a brand by being consistent and credible and building your authority about mortgage, about real estate, by answering real estate and mortgage questions on a Facebook or on an Instagram. But when I am in the mindset of being on Facebook and Instagram, I am there to scroll through for entertainment, just to, kind of zone out for a little bit. I'm not typically going there to search a house, which is why when we talk about like Facebook ads, there's a much longer incubation period because I'm not picking up Facebook thinking, all right, let's find my house on Facebook. You're just happening to come across something. So, what's playing a little bit more there, I think, is that relatable, the human, the connecting type of content, entertaining. And then you have what's happening with TikTok. And this is what's happened with Snapchat. And I wrote a whole book about Snapchat. If you're wondering, I actually wrote the book on Snapchat. So it was about behavior training, right? And what happened is people started getting used to seeing your face and they started getting used to seeing your reality show. And now if they don't see you, they don't trust you because we build trust through technology. And so they start to wonder why you're not there. And same thing is happening with TikTok, and all the people my age and older, even some younger, are like, oh, please, my kids are on TikTok. I've seen what goes on there. It's not professional. There's no business. Yeah, but what you're missing is that it's training people right now. It's training people for more entertaining content, more creative content, showing your face, being a little bit more raw, unedited, authentic, being much more creative.
Humor.
And it's short, right?
Seconds, right? Like, I mean, we went from like 60 seconds being the video to IGTV, and I think it's like navigating waters. But those people that had that same conversation about TikTok had the exact same conversation about Facebook and the exact same conversation about Instagram, didn't move into those marketplaces. It was open season, other people did. And now, like, the parents followed the kids onto Facebook, kids ran to Instagram, parents followed their kids to Instagram, kids ran to TikTok. That shift, we've already seen the trend a couple times. It's happening right now. And I guarantee you kids are already looking for another platform where they're not being inundated with people like you and I or their parents, because that's just a natural progression of these social networks.
And what happens is you start to watch TikTok, as I have. It's a guilty pleasure, and I love it. And it's a black hole of I could look down, and an hour later, I've wasted an hour looking at TikTok. And when I go back to Instagram, I'm kind of like, oh, this isn't as fun. You know what I mean? So like your brain's starting to get trained to like experience that kind of content. So I do think that we're going to see a lot of shifting in what kind of content people are willing to engage with. And, the kind of content that already doesn't work, but will certainly not work going forward is, just the blanket picture of a house that's just sold with a just sold sign over it. People are just looking right past that as an ad. They're not even looking at it. They're not even going there. Their brain is like, we're not interested. So I think that people are going to have another shift in like, oh, geez, what are we going to do? Because for so many years, it was like, hey, pick a question your clients always ask you, make a video on it. Again, I'm not saying not to do that. That is important. But what I'm saying is we have to really put in a lot more human relatable content around that as well. And I think more, human relatable content than even business content. Now, if you are teaching how to do Facebook on Facebook, great. You can do business content all day long, because guess what? People are interested. They're on Facebook and they would like to learn how to use it. But showing houses is a different strategy for somebody who's scrolling through Instagram and what they're expecting to see and what they want to see. So you have to learn how to showcase them differently.
I think you, again, touched on another point I really wanted to get across to our audience today. And having you, it makes it easy because I know you're going to get into it anyways. It's being platform specific. Like for a long time, people were just posting the exact same content on every single platform. I was doing it to a certain degree. I mean, the other trend that you noticed is, when I talk to people about images on social media, the only people that look at the sold image of a house is either yourself or another real estate agent. Just like the only people that looks at billboards are people that are paying for them, or your competition. The general consumer doesn't really have those habits ingrained in them. And, I think the one thing that I did want to talk about as well is, how do you control technology versus letting it control you? And like, what do you think the audience can garner from those habits? Because I've noticed it where on TikTok, like I'll be going through it, it'll be entertaining. And like, I'll post my piece of content, I'll be in there with intent, I'll go into a community, I'll try and support my friends because I see them posting and trying to help them from an algorithm perspective, because you give us free content, I'm always going to try and give 2 pennies for every 1 penny you give me. But I'll notice something like on TikTok, a video will come up and it's like 2 people yelling at each other at a McDonald's. And I don't actually enjoy that, because I find it showing me the worst of the worst in human nature. And I like positivity in my life. Do you think people need to be conscious about what they're letting and feeding into the algorithm? Because if all I do is watch those videos, all of a sudden my entire feed is just those videos, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you control the content that you see for sure, and the people that you see there. So if you're there for the shock value, you're going to see more shock worthy content on like a TikTok or something like that. Absolutely. But I also want to give people permission that they don't have to be everywhere all the time. And it's kind of like zero inbox. It's so great when we get there. How often do we keep it? I mean, there's no way. I mean, maybe if you have an entire team that's helping you, and like that means they have to actually be in your accounts, like not just helping you post stuff. I'm talking about like getting back to your DMs, making your posts, making your captions, being on different things, making stories. It can be overwhelming. And it is there. I do not have an answer for how to do it all as one person, because that you have to have some sort of like team or system. It is okay not to be everywhere all the time. You can be strategic and spend 10 minutes in like 2 platforms, get in and out, move on with your day. Maybe 2 days later, you'll spend more time, just engaging with people, or maybe you'll spend 30 minutes next week creating one killer caption. So it's okay not to be everywhere. You just have to be smart about training your algorithms so that they'll help you when you do show up.
So how do you do that? How do you train an algorithm?
So nobody knows the secret sauce of all the algorithms, but Facebook and Instagram have been very vocal about what is actually, components, major components of their secret sauce. And I joke that I do understand how to speak Facebook a little bit. So a lot of these things come out and they put their blogs out and people are like, okay, cool. Like, what does that mean? Like, for example, they talked about this new video algorithm that came out in May of 2019. And one of the key features that they were going to be looking at was loyalty and intent. Mm-hmm. And people were like, okay, cool. What is loyalty and intent? And probably glossed over that, right? But it's really important to understand what they mean by loyalty. Loyalty means, are people actually watching video A last week, and are the same people coming back to watch video B this week? Okay. And if they are, then you need to think more episodic content. You need to make sure that you're giving people verbal calls to action. Hey, every Wednesday at whatever time, I'm going to drop a new live video. I'd love for you to be here. You have to kind of pre-plan and change a few things out now. So they are looking at those types of analytics. So you have to kind of read between the lines. You have to sometimes look at 12 blog posts to figure out what exactly is going on with that algorithm. But essentially, the algorithms are serving you things that you're interested in, people that you're connected with. And the more people, the more often that you're talking to certain people, the more likely that your content is going to show up in their feed and vice versa. So my focus for 2019 was less contenting and more commenting. Now, don't everybody get crazy. I also wrote a book. I believe in content. So what I'm saying, though, is that the algorithm is a really easy way to create content can be your comments. You can be a super fan for someone, and it's a great way for you to brand yourself. It's easy to do while you're in bed for 10 minutes in the morning, and it's also a really great way to train your algorithm. So when I say super fan and branding, this is what I mean. If you make a post and I comment on it, okay, let's just say in Facebook, you make a post, I go and comment on it, great. You not only get a notification that shows up in your notifications that has my face bubble and my name that I've left a comment, but you're also going to see in the comments me again and the comment, okay? So you're going to get 2 branding opportunities right there. Now, what happens is you're going to show up in their feed all the time, and we all know the super fans. We all know the people that we can count on that always constantly comment. That means something to us. That's like a handwritten thank you note now. I go to my mailbox once every 2 weeks. So when you send me that handwritten thank you note, I appreciate it. I'm like, that's cool. It's a lost art, but where am I every 2 minutes? I'm on my Facebook feed. So that's where you can have this consistent branding experience with someone and become their super fan. Then what happens is, because I'm talking to you all the time and I'm commenting on your stuff, which the algorithms are looking at, your stuff shows higher in my feed. My stuff is going to show higher in your feed because it's going to assume that we have some sort of relationship or that we like to see each other's content. Now, once we start DMing, it brings it to a whole new level. So for me, spending time supporting other people's content actually helps me go farther and my content go farther, so that I don't have to post every day, nor should you post every day in some scenarios, because I am active. I am a good community member in the eyes of, Instagram and Facebook. I'm a heavy DMer. I respond to my DMs, and I'm doing what they want with their product. They want me to be talking with people. And so because I'm doing all those things, when I am posting and I do make a high quality post, that does know that I have more authority, so to speak, than maybe some other accounts that don't really get in there and engage. If you're just set it and forget it with one of those things where it's posting for you, good luck, because you're just going to get 2 likes, probably somebody from your office and some other random person. And then the next future posts aren't going to get any reach either, because you didn't get any likes on the first one.
And we talked about that last week, actually, in the same group. Like, there's one specific source that a lot of agents here will use, and it's an auto poster. And I jump on Twitter and I saw 7 posts posted at the exact same time with the exact same article, just with a different image on it. And I said, from a trust standpoint, you've now not only from an algorithm standpoint, but like, you've lost the trust of the audience. If they're smart enough to look and say, oh, you're just using, some piece of software to repurpose the exact same piece of content across 7 platforms, they're like, forget the algorithm. They're just not going to believe you the next time you post something, even if it is a blog article that you wrote yourself, right? So I think, what I see as a trend is transparency and authenticity, like for real, becoming much more prevalent. And, one of the things I like about you when I see the stuff offline is the bad hair day photos and videos you put out there. I bet you probably get thousands of DMs from other girls being like, yeah, I had a bad hair day, whatever. Like, I woke up in the morning, I didn't care, and I just told you what was on my mind. Like, you're letting them into your life, and you realize that nobody cares. They actually like you more for it,
right?
Because of the fact that, you're not this Instagram person just sitting in front of a Lamborghini on the hood of the car projecting a life that isn't real. I think people are kind of hip to that, and it's kind of skewing the other way because it went so far down that rabbit hole for so long, right?
I agree. And it is hard to feel yourself on camera. So just give it some time, because eventually, as you relax, you will feel more comfortable to try a few more. If you're a funny person, maybe you'll try something that is, with your funny personality. And it's hard to compare the beginning of where you're at with somebody who's been doing it for 5 years. I've been documenting every single day of my life for the last 5 years, every single day. I've never missed a day. If I'm not there, you should call someone because something terrible has happened. So I have a lot of experience, and to me, it's very natural, but it didn't start that way. So you can't get to that feeling or that vibe of feeling like authentic and real and natural and kind of show your real self in many cases until you've been doing it a while, which is totally okay, because you'll probably end up learning something on the way that you hadn't even intended, which will be a great lesson too.
And one topic I definitely wanted to chat about was, how do you deal with the haters? Because I know we had that interaction about TikTok a month ago. And I know it's prevailing, right? Like the YouTube, TikTok are probably two of the worst
YouTube and TikTok are notorious for trolls.
I sent you that one link. The one person, I forget who it was. There's an account I saw online, and they were basically saying, like, you can literally filter abusive comments and everything else. Like, it's an option.
Yes, I did. I changed words. So if anybody posted certain words on TikTok, that it wouldn't even post it.
I know they don't matter, right? And if somebody's living such a sad life that they're taking a minute out of their day to hate on something you're doing, like, I pray for success and love in their life, and that they just realize that it's wasted time. But like, how do you deal with that? Because you're a nice person. I know it probably sucks to see stuff like that.
I'll be totally honest. The very first time it happened, I was so hurt. I was offended. Like, I'm an extremely overly sensitive person in the sense that, I'm always want to try to make sure everything is right. Like, I want things to go well. Don't ever want to hurt someone's feelings. So I'm a very hypersensitive person. And I was just like, I can't believe somebody would even say that. Like, and I thought about it for a really long time. And then after, that first time, and I had it again, I was like, oh, well, and then I would respond, but I was never rude or mean. But I would respond to some of them, like on TikTok, I will respond. And,
but I'm saying that they're going to troll you even more if they see this.
But I never get mean. I'm always, people will call me names and I'm like, absolutely. I'm a proud Karen out here. I'm having the best day ever.
Yeah.
So I'm never rude or mean. I mean, certainly if there's anything like, really awful or vulgar, I would obviously delete and report them.
Sure.
And I have actually reported, believe it or not, people on LinkedIn. Yeah. I've never reported someone yet on TikTok, but I have had trolls on LinkedIn, and I'm like, this is actually connected to your place of work. People can see where you work. It has like your name on it. This is very strange to me that you would, put it out there for everyone to see and then be a troll. So interesting.
And that goes back to the conversation around transparency. Like, if you're a terrible person, the world's going to find out. It's literally just a matter of time. Now information's so pervasive. You can't, like, the old school sales tactics and like operating in the shadows, even in our industry. Like, I sit on 3 boards. One of them is professional standards, and stuff that was done 30 years ago that was just normal business isn't passing anymore. And licenses are getting revoked over things that were commonplace. And I think it's a good thing, because I think it empowers the consumer. It creates a more level playing field for everybody else. And like, even all of this technology, the attention of the people watching right now, in the past, we would never be able to do this. We would have to get on CBS or NBC, or we'd have to get through the gatekeepers. We'd have to have a relationship to put us in a position, or you would have to, be approved by the 5 people sitting on the panel to speak at the level that you speak at. Well, now the consumers dictate who they want to hear from, and clearly you're doing a good job at that. And, I think that barriers are being removed one day at a time.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. So ignore the haters that definitely don't matter.
Just ignore them, and then it'll just become commonplace at some point on some platforms, like we said. I mean, TikTok is definitely a platform that you're going to find a lot of that currently. That could very well change as it evolves. We don't know, but I don't usually get that.
I'm going to interject for a quick second, because the platforms are just the platforms. They're just the tools, right? Like, I think what you said earlier, people need to notice it's the skill set that you're developing, creating content on the platforms that you own. Like, so TikTok can get bought out, get shut down tomorrow. Instagram can go away. Facebook can come in and out. Like, the platforms don't actually matter. It's how you're learning to navigate the waters and develop a skill set, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I totally agree with that. None of us should be dependent on social media platforms, because we never know what's going to happen with them. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I thank TikTok for making me better at more creative Instagram stories. Snapchat was a really great creative outlet, and I just felt like it changed a bit on Instagram stories for a lot of us who were on Snapchat. And then now that TikTok's here too, I'm almost reinvigorated by just some of the great creativity that I see over there.
And I was going to say, like, did you ever have a feeling when Snapchat and Instagram came in that you'd done all this work in Snapchat and you're like, oh no, like, I got to move this all over there? Was there like a second? I got it where I was like, oh.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But then you realize it didn't matter, right?
Yeah. And, but it was kind of, after I kind of made the decision to move over to it, I was fine. It was great. I learned a lot of awesome things over there, and still talk to great friends that
Yep.
I met over there, and took everything that I learned and applied it to what we were doing here in Instagram and even in Facebook. And, look at Facebook stories for all of us, OG Snapchatters. Like, we're like, oh, this is like 6 years ago. We're totally know what to do with this. So it did give us some really good advantages.
And probably stuff you take into your speaking engagements as well, just in
Mm-hmm.
how to communicate to an audience, right?
Right.
We
Exactly.
did get an audience member question. It says, with the lower age demographic of TikTok, how are you creating content around subjects typically older crowds think of, say real estate mortgages, that is relatable and entertaining for the younger crowd?
So right now, as TikTok sits at this moment, this could change in 6 months. It could change in a year. It's my opinion that not a lot of real estate content that we're used to making is going to play very well over there.
No.
As far as like, here's what an ARM is. Let me explain it. That's just not going to really go anywhere over on TikTok at this time. Now, there are a couple of, people in the industry, one of which is Tanner Ritchie. It's Richie. He does a lot of like dancing type videos in front of his listings.
Yeah.
Not all of us are dancers. I don't dance, but I do some of the things that I said I never would. Like, I did some of the lip syncing ones, which was actually really fun. And I will say, one of my highest viewed videos was me talking about my behind the scenes video setup. I happened to be shooting an IGTV video, and I thought, well, let me just do a real quick TikTok. Took me no more than 1 minute.
Yeah.
And I said, here's my mic, here's my setup, that was one of my most viral videos.
Crazy.
So that's the hard part about TikTok, is you really have to stop thinking about, how am I going to use this for real estate, and start using it for your personal brand, and just, connecting with people there. And I will tell you, I have people that come to Instagram from TikTok and say, I found you on TikTok. I just bought your book. I would love to have an Instagram audit, or what have you. It will get there. It's just not there right now. So you can go in there and try videos of like real estate and stuff. It's probably not going to play very well, because the way TikTok works, it goes through, a system. There's like different tiers. And if you make it past the first one, then you get out a little farther. If you never make it past that first one, that video is just not going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So what I recommend, and I'm still learning, I am not a TikTok expert by any means. What I have found has helped me is, first, I spent about 2 months literally just consuming. I didn't make anything, didn't try anything. I just tried to figure out what it was. And I trained my algorithm, because there was a whole bunch of weird stuff that I didn't want to see. And so now I see a lot of things from parents and, people in the industry. And I would see what they were doing, and I would save the music that they were making their videos to, because I found out that you can save the sounds.
Okay.
And like favorite them, because I was like, oh, geez, what am I going to do? And I would find something I liked that I thought was a funny, cool song, but then I could never think of anything at the time. So I started like a little back library. So whenever I had an idea, I would then make it, or I would watch somebody's video and I would think, how could I make that for a mom? Or one of the things that was viral is there was a kid sitting in his car. You probably saw it, Justin. Hilarious video where he's like, do I really want to go into work? And he's like, turns the wheel. And he's like, no. And he's like laughing, and then he turns the wheel. So there was this super creative mom, and I totally started laughing, because she basically used his exact recording, because you can use everyone's recordings on your videos. She was getting all the art, you get from your kid's classroom, and you're like, should I throw this out? She's like standing over, she's like, yeah. And then she's like, no, I'm not going. Cause and I'm like, I've totally been there, like feel terrible throwing out my kids' art, but I have so much of it. So trying to tweak what they're doing and see how you can make it relatable to you as a person, or you as a brand, or you in your industry. So that's how I would use it. I would use it to get inspiration and think, how could I take that funny, trending video or song that someone's using, and how can I apply it to life as an agent, life as a parent, life as what have you? And that's how I would get started. Now, again, I don't claim to be a TikTok expert. I have gone viral about 3 times there. I have one that's like over 1 million views. I think maybe almost 2 million views. And let me tell you, you cannot plan for it. My life did not change when I woke up the next morning and I was over 1 million. I didn't get a letter from TikTok. Nobody was knocking on my door. And it was the most unexpected video ever. It wasn't anything funny. So now as an early adopter on TikTok, you can also go viral because it's just early days, but that's very limited. And then it's going to be like everything else.
100%. And we've heard this many times. Gary said this, if you knew that you can go back to 2011 on Instagram, everybody would be running there, and nobody's doing it right now. And it's funny because people get stuck on the content or the people and they think, oh, I need to replicate what that person's doing. Well, there's already one Chelsea Peitz out there. You do not need to do exactly what she's doing. But if you look at, the macro things that she's doing and turn it into something that works for you, make your own flavor with the ingredients that she happens to be using, you can really create something pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing too about TikTok, just to help encourage people to get started, because it is a very overwhelming app. There's lots of editing, and that really threw me for a loop because I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many buttons, and how do these people do this? You can save things in drafts. So what I would recommend is go ahead and make a few videos, play with a few things, and save them in drafts. Maybe you'll never post them, but sometimes it just makes you feel a little bit more comfortable to go through 5, 6, 10 drafts. And then maybe there will be one that you actually want to post and it ends up doing really well. But you don't, just because you record and use the functionality doesn't mean you have to actually post it. You can save it, and maybe you'll get more comfortable, and you'll get more comfortable with like how to do all the buttons and the recording and the edits and all of that, because it can be a lot.
For sure. And I think people just don't be scared. Really take the first step. It doesn't matter if it's Instagram, Facebook. Like this community is really geared towards people who are looking to just do something because they know they should be, but they just feel overwhelmed, and they're like, well, I need to be on every platform every single day. I'm like, no, like to literally pick one thing. Don't even buy a DSLR. Just use your camera, shoot one photo and put that out, and just spend more time on the copy and give it some actual context to who you are as a human being versus what you think you need to put out there to convert that lead. Because if you're thinking that way, that person's never going to trust you, and they're not actually going to become a client or a customer, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
So I'm going to fire off a couple wrap-up questions for you, and then I'll get you on your way because I know you got a flight tomorrow to speak again. So if you had to just off the cuff say, what is the greatest lessons you've learned over your years doing what you do? What do you think that greatest lesson would be?
Oh man. I would say that, and it's funny because, like I said, I wrote the book about it, but we overcomplicate things, and it doesn't just have to be content, right? It's hard for us to get out of our own way. And that's something that I struggle with on a daily basis. And one of the things that we just talked about, saving in drafts or trying things, just put it out there. I think it was Gary Vee that said, we don't get to be subjective about our own content, which I thought was really interesting. And then what he really meant is that it's not fair for us to be subjective about our content, because if we think something's not great, somebody else might love it. If we think something's amazing, somebody else may not. And so you have to put something out there to actually test it and see what's going to happen. But if you don't put anything out there, then nothing's going to happen. You also have to have the wherewithal to know that if nothing's happening, then it's your content. So if you're not getting any engagement, you're not getting any likes, if you're not getting any engagement at all, then we need to look and see, what are you posting? And, I just did a podcast about the biggest branding mistakes that people in our industry are making. And that's one of the things. And it's looking at, what are you posting? Is it all about you? Does it have your logo over everything? Are you sending people a happy birthday message with your logo everywhere? It's not about you. It's about them and you wishing them a really wonderful happy birthday. Not everything we need to do has to be branded and logoed and all about us.
I literally, one habit that I picked up a couple of years ago was I stopped just wishing people happy birthday on Facebook. I call them. Doesn't matter. obviously people that I don't know well enough to call, I don't call. But like if it's somebody that I know in some regard, I'll try and pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. That I can tell you can go further than any gift basket or anything else, because nobody calls you on your birthday anymore. They all just jump on Facebook or send you a text message, right?
I'll give you one more on that birthday thing. I mean, you can totally cheat and go to Facebook and plan out like the whole month of birthdays, because it'll show you everybody's upcoming birthday. So I would call them the day before or like the night before, and I would say, hey, Justin, I know your big day is tomorrow, and I know you're going to get blown up with so many people that love you and want to wish you a best day ever. I just want to be like the first person to be able to say happy birthday. Hope you have an amazing day. So if you really want to be impressive with the birthday, call them the night before, but make sure you tell them why you're calling the night before.
Awesome. Yeah. The other question I have for you is, what are you learning right now? So obviously you know how to kind of navigate the waters. You're walking through the jungle with your machete, just killing it. Like, what are you learning to kind of stay ahead of the curve?
I am learning. I think for me, you know, the TikTok space is a big learning space for me. And it's almost, gosh, how was I describing this the other day with somebody? You almost have to create something that looks uncreated, if that makes sense. You have to almost use so many editing things and creative ideas to make it look like it wasn't edited. And it's just very interesting for me, and kind of going back, like I said, into that, since I've just sort of done one thing so much on Instagram stories. But TikTok has me in a whole new world trying to figure out, oh my gosh, where is content going? You know, are people going to be gravitating towards this, which I think they will? And, you know, what does that mean for the content in the feeds? What does that mean for the content in the stories? And I'm just really focusing. My goal this year is, I had an IGTV video called The 3 S's of Success, and it was about being searchable, savable, and shareable. And so my goals are really to focus in on savable and shareable in the feeds, because that's really going to help your algorithm, but it also means you're putting out stuff that people care about, and it's difficult. So that's where I really want to go for 2020, is to really hone in on how to really optimize my savability of my content and my shareability as well.
So anybody that's watching this, you should go check out her Instagram feed, because it's filled with savable content. Like the way that you position your IGTV posts, super intelligent, because you can look at it, see what the exact topic is, open it up, save it to watch it later. And I'm sure you get a lot of that, which in turn tells you that you're providing the right value. So with that said, how can we add value to you, whether it be the audience or myself? Like, what's the biggest thing that I can do for you right now to bring you value?
Honestly, just, you know, share me out with as many people as possible, because, you know, Justin, I love to help people. Anyone that's ever come across with me, it may or may not be able to get back to you right away, but if you have questions about Instagram, if you need help with anything, I always respond. It is me in my direct message. And the more people that you share me with, the more people that I can help for free and just give them tips and how-tos, because I really needed to learn all of that when I was trying to figure it all out. And it would have been so nice if nobody had said, hey, you want to sign up for my $5,000 course? Here's like a free lead magnet, but then you got to sign up. There is no $5,000 course, like nothing of that nature. I am just love to help people and give them tips, tricks, hacks, and how-tos so that they can empower their social.
And you do that. And I mean, how many times has you seen a little bubble pop up and I mentioned somebody and I'm like, hey, this is Chelsea, go talk to her, tell her, you know me. I did it today with Trent, who I posted, and Trent used to work with us. He moved back to like Kitchener area. But I was like, yeah, like I know her. I said, send her a DM. I'm like, she's super helpful. Like you'd be surprised, because I think people are intimidated sometimes when they look and they're like, wow, she's so many followers and she's so busy and everything else. Like there's a human at the other end of that account. So I'd encourage everybody watching to look up her book on Amazon, go follow her and flood her DMs and tell her how much value she gave you in this interview. So thank you very, very much, Chelsea.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I'll definitely keep spreading the word. Okay. See ya.
Bye guys. See you later.